Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the spiritual relevance of the thyroid gland. I think in the last video I mentioned the body, mind, spirit series of videos, but I think I'll change it to the spiritual relevance because it makes a bit more sense, a bit easier for people to find. So that's what I'm going to be calling this video and future videos from now on. So just like in the last video, I'm not going to spend as much time talking about the physiological side, what the thyroid does in the physical body, and lots of different tips you can use practically to help with the thyroid, just like with the eyes in the last video. So if you want more details on that, please have a look at my written blog on my website. I'll put a link down below so that you can access that. Because it will take much longer to talk through all the different points in a video than what I wrote out in the article. So I'm going to keep it much more general in the videos. So the thyroid. I'm constantly linking these videos, linking the physical function of these different organs and different body parts and different diseases in with the energetic. So quite often if you look at the function or what's going on in the physical, you can get an idea of the beliefs, the emotional, mental, astral, and so on, relevance, how they reflect into each other. I quite often will say that the physical body reflects into the emotional body, the mental body, the astral body, and so on, and vice versa. So a lot of people do underestimate how important the physical body is, the vessel through which you are experiencing this particular reality is. And a lot of newly awakened people quite often neglect it and ignore it and think they can get away with not looking after their physical body and that they can just rely on the energetic. So it's really an important point I'm trying to get across in these videos here. So the thyroid, and I'll try and remember to put a picture of the thyroid up on this video. So the thyroid is just below your thyroid cartilage, so what most people call the Adam's apple. There's a lump of cartilage that you can move left to right here. Lump of cartilage, and it's just below that. And it's kind of a butterfly shape, though it can be different shapes. Typically, you've got a left lobe and a right lobe and a bit that joins in between, making it like a butterfly. But you can have little projections. It can be a bit bigger. It can grow more towards the top of the chest if it's enlarged, or even into a goiter, where you get a physical lump there. So that's where it is, if you want to tune into it. Please do use the anatomy pictures that you can find online or in my articles to help you better sense into them if you are going to do the scanning techniques so that you can tune into it yourself. So that's where it sits. Quite an important gland. I think a lot of people I think most people underestimate how much impact the thyroid has on the rest of the body, considering it's so small. So it does produce thyroxine and triiodothyronine, also known as T4 and T3. T3, by the way, does get produced elsewhere in the body, such as in the liver. So it's not the only organ that produces that. But they are basically hormones that increase the output, shall we say, of the cells of your body. So they increase the activity, they increase the metabolism of the body. And that means, depending on which cells the thyroid hormones are affecting, means that it will increase the metabolic activity of all sorts of different processes in the body. Increase the rate at which hormones are being produced, increase the rate at which the immune system's functioning, increasing the motility of the gut. You name it, it increases things in that way. And obviously you don't want things to be increased all the time, so there is a regulatory loop with the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland dictates how much stuff the thyroid gland produces via thyroid stimulating hormone. The thyroid gland also produces calcitonin, so you can kind of hear it in the name, calcium and tonin. So it's a hormone that encourages the uptake of calcium into your bones away from your bloodstream. So that can affect your bone density, and if there's any problems with that, then of course osteopenia and osteoporosis can happen. Yeah, like I said, I won't go into too much detail of the physiology and different diseases that thyroid can promote. Generally speaking, when we're talking about the thyroid energetically, it relates very much to metabolism. So if you've got lots of energy in your physical body, you've got a nice high metabolism, we could say that that's a lot of energy, a lot of power, you could say the physical body has. So that very much relates to your beliefs of how much power you have. So the thyroid, therefore, is a lot to do with will. How you use your will, how much will you believe you have, how much power you believe you have. So in the case of hypothyroidism in the physical body, so the thyroid is a bit sluggish, it's not producing enough of its hormones, and therefore you feel quite low in energy, lethargic, cloudy mind, slow to make decisions. And typically, with hypothyroid, you may put on weight more than you would normally. A lot of things would be very sluggish and slow in different ways. Maybe you sleep a lot. Maybe you don't feel like you want to be very active and get up and go and do things a lot. Yeah, I listed a lot more of the different things about the hypothyroidism in my article, of course. So yeah, so with hypothyroidism, typically on an energetic level, there's a belief that you don't have the power to do things. You don't believe you have much will. So this can happen early in life. So for example, if you're at the age where you are learning to say no as a child, you're starting to learn to be more independent, starting to explore being an individual, typically around the age where children will start saying no. If your parents or whoever was looking after you would stop you from doing what you wanted at that age, maybe you're running around having lots of fun, being a child, exploring things, and you are constantly being told, no, stop doing that, you're making a noise, that's bad. You are constantly restricted from being who you wanted to be and exploring who you wanted to be, then you will have the experience of being disempowered. The enduring pattern, if you are going to look into psychology. And that can very much reflect into a sluggish thyroid through your life, because you don't feel you have the power to be who you want. You don't have the power to do what you want, to create what you want, to live how you want. Other people have more power. So that can very much set up a sluggishness in your liver because you don't believe you have the will to overcome others. It can happen later in life too. Maybe, if you've been living your life and following all the advice that people have been giving you, and you start to feel like you don't have enough power in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of a partner or a boss or whoever it may be, constantly over and over again, not allowing you to express yourself the way you wish. then you might start to feel powerless through life. You might start to look at others and think, why do they have things and I don't? And you set up that belief that you are powerless. So again, you can create that sluggishness later in life too. There are a lot of physical chemicals and radiations and different things that I talk about in my blog article as well that can affect the thyroid physically. But energetically, that's what it is. So I mentioned briefly expression there. And that's another important part of the thyroid gland, is expression. Because if you don't believe you have enough willpower, then you are not able to express yourself the way you wish in life. And expression isn't just being able to speak, as some people think about it. Expression is everything you do. So everything from your hobbies to how you speak to people and respond to people, how you interact with people, and even your job. So if you are spending 8 hours a day, 5 times a week doing a job that you don't like, then you're spending a lot of time not expressing yourself the way you wish. So this is another reason why hypothyroidism may develop later in life, energetically speaking. You're doing things that you don't really want to do, but you don't feel like you can easily change jobs or fund a different course in life, maybe. And so that can develop for those reasons too. So a lot of what can correct the thyroid issues energetically is learning to express yourself the way you wish. And this is for hypo and hyperthyroidism. This is for all forms of thyroidism, thyroid issues, should I say, is learning to express yourself the way you wish. So a bit like with the eyes, with hypothyroidism, learning to make those little baby steps every day, even though you have the feeling like you don't want to, like you're lethargic, like you don't have the energy, like there's all these different excuses you have, different thoughts in your head that you can't. Do it anyway. Do a little step every day to take you closer to being the person you wish to be. And that takes you closer and closer to the expressing yourself as you truly wish, and therefore that starts to solve, on the energetic level, the thyroid issues. Get up and do it anyway. Prove to yourself that you do actually have some energy, that despite those emotions and thoughts saying that you can't do it, you don't have the energy, you don't have the power, get up and do it anyway. And each time you make a little step forwards, you're reinforcing the belief that, oh, actually, I can. I do actually have some power. I do actually have some will. And it builds and builds and builds until you slowly correct the problem. With hyperthyroidism, it's a bit different to hypo. So with hyper, the thyroid gland is overactive. It's producing too much of its hormones. And so you get a lot of symptoms that are opposite to hypothyroidism. You get very nervy, very energetic, hypersensitive to things. You can lose a lot of weight. And again, I'll list more on the blog article, different things that you can look at, different signs and symptoms of hyperthyroidism. Energetically, it's misuse of will, like with hypothyroidism, but in a different way. So you are using your will and really trying to force yourself to move forwards in the direction of life you want, but it's scattered. That's the main thing with hyperthyroidism. You're doing too many different things at once. You're putting your energy into this, and to this, and to this, and to this. And because you're putting so little energy into each thing, your results aren't going to be as good as if you take the time to put your energy just into that into that one thing, get it sorted, get it accomplished, get it finished, then move on to the next task. So quite often with hyperthyroidism, you've got a scattered attention. You're thinking about too many different things all at the same time. And of course, with certain thyroid diseases, that can develop into hypothyroidism. So Hashimoto's, for example, can start off with hyperthyroidism. You can start off with that panic, trying to do too many things, and then the belief that you can't, or you don't have the power, you don't have the will, can develop after that. So that's the energetic reason behind Hashimoto's, why you can have hyper, then hypo, and several hyper and hypos possibly. So with hyperthyroidism, quite often there is the belief that you do have the power there, but you're scattered. So the trick there is to organize yourself better. Pick a task, do it to completion, or at least do it to as much as you can complete in a particular day. For whatever reason, logistical reasons or money reasons, at least complete as much as you can within that one day before you move on to the next task. Then you will feel you've accomplished something more, that you do have some progress in a particular task, so that you don't develop the belief that you can't, that you don't have will. That's the main thing with hyperthyroidism. If a goiter develops, and a goiter is more likely to develop with hypothyroidism, but you can get it with hyperthyroidism. That very much represents stuckness. So a goiter, remember, is a visible lump. And you can get thyroid swellings and increase in size that are temporary, or that don't develop into a visible goiter, as we call it. But if there's a goiter there, that very much represents some stagnation, some stubbornness would be a good word. So if you're holding on to beliefs that you can't do something because of an experience that happened in the past, you're holding on to limiting beliefs that don't serve you, beliefs that you could actually test to see whether that's true or not, but you're so stubborn you don't want to. You're not going to let any new ideas in. So yeah, that's another thing with thyroid. So, the front of the throat chakra, as many people know, has a lot to do with receiving as well. So if you're not receiving new ideas and trying out something new, and not testing out those beliefs that are limiting you, then you may well end up with stubbornness and a goiter. So the ability to receive new ideas is essential also to the thyroid. Okay, I believe that's all I wanted to say for this particular part of the body. I hope you've got the idea that, again, working towards being the person you wish will very much sort out the thyroid and help you express yourself the way you wish and show yourself that you can create the life you wish. If there's any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or email me. And if you've got any preference on what you'd like to see in the future in this series of videos, then please do email me or leave a comment again, and I will try and accommodate that. Please do like and subscribe if you like to support this channel, and I will see you in the next video.